order at 6:01. Any additions or deletions to the agenda?
I'd get a couple under unsightly, but do we have an update on our artwork on the wall?
We can add that.
Yeah.
I think last time I asked a month ago, we had the test piece ready to show us. But artwork, we can. Yeah, we'll put it under H5, just maybe we can get a hold again. H5. And just remind them, maybe, depending on you, maybe a special council meeting. And we have a resolution here that, for flood risk that we need added. So everybody has a copy of that in front of it. It's in Tom's report. Anything else? Nothing else?
And umbrellas, just to have here.
Umbrellas. For tomorrow, it's been rain. Anything else? Artwork, resolution, umbrellas. Okay, we have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Seconder.
So seconded.
Seconded. Any further discussion? None? All those in favor say by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. None. Minutes of May the 17th. All of us had a chance to go through those. Any errors or omissions? If none, can we have a motion to approve those?
Make a motion to approve the last.
Second.
Second that.
Third. We'll start it, so. Any discussion on the minutes? None? All those in favor? Aye. Any nays? No. So unfinished business from the minutes. CEO report. Let's see if we can get through this, get home barbecue. Okay?
In planning department, so we was 2 development permits and 1 subdivision approval issued, generating 500 in fees for the month of May. And one thing to add, tomorrow afternoon, Chris Millier, who is our planner, and myself are virtually meeting with Harry Jost, and some representatives from the Pines to discuss development of the property that they just recently acquired alongside the Pines. So they've got some development ideas, and they just want to, before they put any applications in for what they need to do, they just want to review with us to see what they do require and whether they can do it under our existing. So see whether rezoning is required or the area, the zoning that property in, for the most part, is in the residential comprehensive district. So basically anything that happens there has to be done through development agreement anyway. So anyway, I'll tell council in once I know some details that I can share at this time. It's not much I can share. The building department, so those 3 building permits issued, generating 1,038 in permit fees. And fire department, no report. Office of the CAO, the Western Regional Library Story Walk. So the Western Regional Library will be doing doing story walks in the counties of DBE, Yarmouth, and Shelburne during June, July, and August. The town story walk is scheduled for July 14th to August the 4th. The story is The Thing Lou Couldn't Do by Ashley Spiders, and it is about a child overcoming the fear of climbing a tree. So there will be 20 core class pages and stands, which will be spaced along Admiral's sidewalk on the water side, which will be installed by the staff of the library as part of this walk. This event will not interfere with the farmer's market, as the signs are on the opposite side of the sidewalk. And or if Scallop Days is held, it won't interfere with the Scallop Days because it ends before the Scallop Days date. Senior management team, so we met and discussed the operating budget. The Director of Finance expects to have a draft operating budget for review by the management by the week of the 21st, which is this week. Management budget meeting with council for their review will be set up as soon as possible after the review of the budget. Canada Summer Jobs, we received approval for 4 positions, 2 at the VIC for VIC counselors and 2 for the Public Works gardeners. Under the Canada Summer Jobs Program, interviews have been conducted and all 4 positions have been filled. Cross Connection Control Program, under the approval of the DEQ Water Commission's approval to operate, the Commission shall ensure the development and implementation of the Cross Connection Control Program to protect the municipal public drinking system from contamination due to cross connections from commercial, institutional, industrial, multi-residential, and agricultural facilities at a minimum, and avoid any cross connections within the drinking water treatment facility. The program shall be submitted to the department for review on or before May 1st, 2020. But due to COVID, there was some relief in that date. However, we now have a directive to have the plan submitted to the department by June 28th, 2021. So we are working on the draft that shall be completed and submitted by the due date. Used needles are becoming an issue. Public Works staff are finding an increased amount of used needles and burnt spoons on sidewalks and other public areas. So I've authorized the purchase of sharps containers and protective gloves for the protection of staff to ensure the used needles are disposed of properly. Vandalism occurred at 2 private businesses on Water Street as well as the Promenade area. The suspect was captured on the town surveillance cameras, and the RCP are investigating the incident. Grant funding opportunities to apply for grant funding were discussed, and applications are being completed. So one of the grants is the FRIP, which is the Flood Risk Investment, Infrastructure Investment Program. And that requires a resolution from council, which I circulated, and to support the application. Otherwise, if we don't have council support, then we won't finish the application. Because I'm going to put it in because they won't accept it without council support. So I think you read it to the agenda.
Yeah, with below is the resolution.
Yeah. Salary scale level adjustments and survey. So as per council direction, I've compiled a salary scale comparison of fee levels of increase based on percentage for council's review and consideration. Town VIC 2021 season, the phase 2 of the province's reopening plan underway. The Visitor Information Center open to the public on Monday, June 21st, which is today. There's a COVID plan in place in compliance with the Nova Scotia health regulations. COVID restrictions. Town Hall open to the public today. Staff hours are Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Business hours will be 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. All COVID-19 regulations stipulated by the Nova Scotia Health shall be followed. Council and committee meetings can now be held in person, however, we must follow the applicable COVID-19 protocols. The guardrail on Church Street, staff is tasked with obtaining a cost estimate for the guardrail on Church Street from Green Street to First Avenue. Director of Public Works obtained a quote for the installation of 46 meters of steel guardrail at $9,600 plus HST. Traffic control would be an additional $15 plus HST. At this point, I'm seeking direction of council on whether to include this item in the draft 2021-22 capital budget.
Yeah, any thoughts? Yeah, I had, it was only a month or two ago, I had to go up on the sidewalk there to get out of that way of that car, that volunteer fire department place, huh? That's where I ran into him, on Church Street. Well, we put it in the draft budget and see what it looks like. That's, you know, see what our capital budget's gonna look like. And if we have to make changes to get it approved, then, yeah.
So, and what's about the topic, should we send a letter to the fire department about some driving? It's not the first time.
Yeah. Or have, like we used to, was invite the RCMP and talk about the rights and responsibilities. I gotta call the chief. I'll talk to him. Used to invite the RCMP and they would talk about the responsibilities of a volunteer.
I did bring it up to Steve, so.
Yeah. Okay, I'll mention Steve too. I call the workshop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to remind them that, you know, get there as quickly as possible, but they have to obey the rules of the road to do so.
Town property, bid number 303-78558. That's property that, newfound property. Say it's off just Sydney Street, but it's actually behind Tom Cowan's property there. It's one that I brought up at council asking them to get it surveyed. So, in discussions with Derek DeWolf, he found that the survey would not be a simple one, and a considerable amount of research would need to be done. I've arranged a meeting with Derek and Mark, our town solicitor, for tomorrow to discuss the matter. So we can't go tomorrow morning, and I'll let council know what we find out after that.
John, with all the development around it, it's, you know, how they left as an orphan piece of property there.
Well, you see, and I think that's the problem. And when we started to do a little bit of research, we found that there's one property that says it goes farther into that block than some of the other properties, so that's why it's not as easy and cut and dry. He wants to discuss it with Mark, who's, you know, his specialty is property law, and so we can come up with he said, I'd like to be able to just run some shots and that, we'll wait until we have that discussion tomorrow.
And just back to the coastal erosion thing, I intended on having some people in regards to coastal erosion. The active groups are all on the South Shore because that's where a lot of the issue is, but there would have been 2 or 3 of them coming in. So we can't have it in the room. So try to arrange a Zoom meeting, and they will just talk about coastal erosion and what it's gonna look like for Nova Scotia. Just to keep, because that was the number one action item on our strategic planning section, so hopefully they'll be able to do something for council. Any questions for Tom?
Do we need a motion for the guardrail?
Just direction.
No, just, basically on, direction, like that into the draft and,
Then if we think we can or can't, we can make a decision then when we see the draft. Director of Finance.
The report is in your package. Still working on the operating and capital budgets. Hopefully we'll have some operating draft budget this week to look at for management team. The town share of the public housing operating loss was lower than they had anticipated it might be. $89,000 is still quite high. But in the report they put out, it is interesting to know that at least we're getting back property taxes in relation to those properties of $113,000 per year. And we still need to service the lots and everything, so it's probably a net loss, but at least there is property taxes coming back. Good news on the gas tax, now called the Canada Community Building Fund, is being topped up this year by an additional $166,000. It almost doubles it, so that's good. And the water and sewer bill non-pay disconnects we continued the suspension of disconnects just for another month. So at the end of June, we'll look at it, CAO, and see. Probably we'll go back to the standard operating procedure, which still gives people the opportunity to, if you have a problem, you can make an arrangement over 6 months to pay back any arrears. So even though if they get the disconnect, they can still come in and if they get the notice, they can still come in and make an arrangement. And 53 Mount Street arrears, the amounts that were owing as of the writing of the report were still not paid, but they were paid just after this report was written. So they are now up to date, and their next payment will be due, I believe, March 1st. And that's the report, unless there's any questions.
I see Nova Scotia Power has just suspended their COVID relief plan for bill payers.
Yeah.
So they're now back into the if you don't pay, you don't buy mode. Yeah.
And I read their notice and looked, they were even identifying people that there is a government program administered by the Salvation Army that allows them to get their electricity and oil bills subsidized through that program. So I called it up and thought, the water bills are potentially in here. And they said, no, but the Salvation Army does have a water bill help fund. Here's their number. Called them up, and it's HRM only, unfortunately. But we do still let people know that contact your local Salvation Army, church, whatever group you can if they're having problems.
It's unfortunate we just lost one of Bethany Bergman that helped out a lot. Yeah. I've used them a number of times with clients for people in the community. Yeah. Okay, Public Works. Oh,
Just a question back to you on the Canada Community Building Fund. The additional $166,000, is that just a one-time, or could we look at
One time. 2 years ago, they also did a one-time, but this is the second time that we've had a one-off, so I wouldn't expect it in the future.
we'll hope they do. Maybe they'll just become a habit.
Yeah. 2 years would be great.
Yeah. Mr. Public Works.
Clean weekly invoices, order topsoil from Yarmouth Waste. So I got an email from him last week while I was off, and they're still unable to send us topsoil because Tennessee did not approve their their topsoil. It still has too much plastic in it.
Right.
We worked with Dark on the community garden project. Worked on capital budget items. The kindness meters are at the shop. They've arrived. Asked for quotes on replacing the roof on the garage and the office at the main pumping station. Brian Murray hired him to fix the fence at Loyal Cemetery, being the sign designed for the Loyal Cemetery, with the information the mayor sent me. We opened up 2nd Avenue on the courthouse. We also had the two stop sign that was paved. We started screening our topsoil. We have the Smithco. It's all the soil that they dug out of the lagoon. So we're screening it so we don't have to buy topsoil for a few years. Because it's like $350 a load. So save us a ton of money there. The paving contract was awarded to Dexter's, and they actually honored last year's prices, so which was good. Completed the daily duties, so wastewater, completed daily duties and water tests, cleaned UV number 2, and completed our bioluminescent samples, and the main pumping station was mowed. Streets, parks too, so we're still doing work at Fisherman's Park, 24 new cedars there. We made a rose garden on the left-hand side going in. We planted 18 rose bushes there. Started extend the rope fence across the front of the Fisherman's Park. It's not quite finished yet, but we've got a few more posts to put in and then the rope to install. We planted our shrubs in the gardens on Admiral's Walk. The topsoil, the concrete is finished on Admiral's Walk. It's just the lower walkway to finish. Replaced the sidewalk, or pieces of the sidewalk by the shoebox. All the line painting has been completed for all our small spaces, and TIR will paint the center lines again this year. We planted 6 maple trees throughout the town. Our flowers have been planted, except for the damaged ones on the promenade that were ripped out that weekend that the CAM brought up. We took a picnic table to Fisherman's Park from the promenade, so that they had a picnic table by the playground, play set there. And we completed many daily duties, weekly duties. 5 ton, regretfully we didn't garage again. It was down for 3 weeks. What it ended up being was the entire housing that the oil filter is attached to was totally corroded, and that's why we had an oil leak, so I had to replace the whole housing with a lava engine. We purchased 2 new whippersnippers for the employees, and we had the tractor looked at because it was idling very low. So fire hall, washrooms, they're coming tomorrow to complete the piping for the sprinkler heads, and the following week they're coming to put the sprinkler heads in so we can finally finish that project. The force main on Admiral's Walk, obviously everybody can see what's going on down there. New flagpoles are in, the cannons have all been painted, and I started painting the lighthouse today, and the brass is really taking hold, so I think it looks really good. Obviously, you heard me always say, 2nd Avenue behind the courthouse is completely open to the public, and we've completed an estimate to do some upgrades at Town Hall, which is another grant application that we've been working on, or Matthew and I are working on. All safety, all employees took their signage to traffic control force, and personnel, 1 employee is off medical leave, and we've hired one summer student, and we're waiting for a return phone call from the 2nd student we offered a position to. The student accepted the position, but for some reason doesn't seem to want to get back to us with paperwork or returning phone calls, so I'm taking it that they're going to turn down the position, so which we found out today, so that's what I have for you.
The lighthouse is painting or staining?
We're painting it.
Because it was stained.
Because it all peeled off.
Yeah, I think it peeled off all the knots and stuff. We used stain on it.
Okay. Anyway, they primed the whole thing.
Yeah.
And we're just painting. So.
I hate paint. I like stain.
Doors. So. Too late. They've already started.
Yeah, no, that's okay. It's been there 5-6 years.
Where are we with the replacement for the traffic lights?
Traffic lights. Final roll of wire came in last week, I believe it was. I was waiting for 1 roll of wire, yellow wire. So we do have another street light to put up too. So we got to do that to everything at the same time. So I just have to get a hold of him now that everything's opened up. But probably been down. So he was a little hesitant on coming down just to do general maintenance instead of repair work. So.
It'll take a day or a bit here.
Should take a day. Should have 2 days in the pricing. So. meters a day to do it, so.
You had mentioned UV. If none of you have been up to the wastewater plant, it's not, usually high on somebody's list, but if you're in for a Sunday afternoon ice cream, you should drive up and just have a look at it. Quite impressive. You can't get in unless it takes you in, but you can certainly look at it and just see what that plant looks like up there.
Wouldn't actually be bad, just a tour of Public Works.
Yep.
That's what we'd have to work with when we do it there here.
We did the water commission, a year and a half, 2 years ago now, I guess.
It's been a while since council. No, just get a hold of it.
I got a couple things, the picnic table at the Fisherman's Park is being well used.
Okay.
And I was up to the farmer's market yesterday, and some good comments on painting of the candles. And the other thing is they're to the sidewalk in the street, that's where they want to stay. So that's right. They get to, the vendors get to look out over the water and stuff, and so they will probably be there.
That'll save our grass.
So,
Look over the water.
Anything else, Ray? Dangerous and on. Mr. Dangerous.
Dangerous or unsightly premise report for the month of May 2021. 10 Carlton Street building is still secured as of date. No further repairs have been done. Administrator is still monitoring property. 12 Carlton Street. Orders to remedy have been posted to this property on the 26th of May 2021 regarding the unsightliness. As administrator for dangerous or unsightly, I had spoken with the landlord expressing the town's concerns of this property being a repeat offender. The orders had stipulated to what had to be done to clean up and maintain this property so it does not fall back into a continuance of recurring violations. After the 14 days granted to carry out this direction, I had visited this property on the 10th of June along with the Public Works Director and had found that the landlord had cleaned up some of the property but not to the standards that were posted to the premise. The landlord then asked for a 4-day extension to bring the property to the administrator's standards. As administrator of dangerous or unsightly, I had granted the 4-day extension and restated the importance of meeting this compliance. If the landlord fails to meet the compliance as stated in the order, or I return to a complaint on this property, an administration fee of $150 will be applied and a contractor will be notified to come in and clean up, with the cost being billed to the owner or taken as a lien on the property. 3 Maiden Lane. Orders to remedy have been posted to this property on the 26th of May 2021. After the 14-day compliance order, the property had been inspected on the 10th of June 2021. The property was cleaned up, but not to the administrative standards. An extension of 4 days had been granted to bring the property up to compliance, and if not, the administration fee would be applied, and the contractor would be notified to come in and clean up, the cost being billed to the owner and taken as a lien on the property. 2 Prince William Street. Orders to remedy had been posted to this property on the 26th of May 2021. The property had been inspected on the 10th of June 2021 and was found that the majority of the grounds would be cleaned, but again, not to the administrator's standards, to what was stated on the orders to remedy. A 4-day extension had been granted, stipulations as expressed before as the 2 previous properties that were posted and inspected on those same days. 13 Mount Street. Orders to remedy have been posted to this property for unsightliness as of the 2nd day of June 2021. Same as for 140 First Avenue. I've had updated inspection on the properties. 12 Carlton Street, 3 Maiden Lane, 2 Prince William Street. As administrator for dangerous and unsightly, I had met with the owner of these 3 properties after the 4-day extension that had been granted on the 10th of June 2021. The owner again had made very little progress in the attempt to meet the standards of what was stated in the orders to remedy that had been previously posted to the premise. In moving forward, I had contacted 2 contractors to get an estimate for the cost of cleanup of these properties, with Digby Salvage estimate being a reasonable rate of $400 total for the total cost for all 3 properties. As administrator of Dangerous Unsightly, I agreed with DB Salvage to go in on the 21st of June, which is today, and clean these premises and have 3 separate invoices of the costs sent to the owner. If the owner refuses to pay for the cost of the cleanup, it will be taken as a lien on the properties. 13 Mount Street, 140 First Avenue. As administrator for Dangerous and Unsightly, I inspected these 2 properties on the 17th of June, 2021 as a follow-up of the 14-day compliance stated on the orders to remedy that these previously posted premises on the 2nd of June 2021. 13 Mount Street, the grounds of this property were clean, with only a garbage container which still remains to be switched out, because that was a metal lobster cage, and it's not permitted. 140 First Avenue, nothing had been done to this property in regards to that had been stated on the orders to remedy. As administrator to Dangerous Unsightly, I granted the 4-day extension to allow the owner to bring these 2 properties up to meet the acceptable standards of what is required from the basis of my findings of the inspection. Kind of got that word wrong there, sorry, apologize. A final follow-up inspection of these 2 properties will be conducted on the 22nd of June 2021.
Very well done.
Did you make that meeting with DB Salvage?
This morning I met with Digby Salvage. Greg had the big truck come down.
Yeah.
We went in, cleaned the remainder on 12 Carlton, and then we proceeded over to the other 2 properties and had those cleaned out. But there is, like the CEO was talking about before, about the needles. It's really bad in a lot of these properties.
Yeah.
Tomorrow I'll like going again, inspect it, not done it, bring Greg in, clean it up.
Perfect.
But
It's the only way, it's gonna tie up a little bit of money on his tax bill or whatever, but it's the only way they're gonna learn.
But I should have better explain this as in, at these stages now with these 5 properties, so if I get called back to these for complaints, that's when the $150 administration fee will apply. So, just to let you know.
Your prerogative, Bruce, to do the extension. Did you expect that was going to happen?
I sort of expected it, yeah. In a lot of these, he does very minimal to get by.
Yes.
And it's, plain and simple, if I don't like it, too bad.
Yeah, but now your experience is he's not going to, so
Yeah.
you just know that moving ahead, this is the rule and probably no extensions.
But there'll be no more extensions
Yeah.
after this.
Yeah. Yeah, good. So like we said, we got your back.
Yeah,
Yes,
appreciate it very much.
Yeah, we got your back. Yeah. Any other questions for Bruce?
Just from our RCMP advisory, Bruce, where they were talking about the vandalism downtown, and the video from our town security cameras. Is there an issue with the quality of trying to identify the people, or some other issue?
Well, what it is that one of the cameras comes from the town hall itself on Roger Marshall's in front of the store, but at nighttime, it's the visibility is very poor. So, it doesn't matter if it's clear night or rainy night; it's not good quality. And where the individual that did the damage, I got him coming down the sidewalk, just in front of Dean Kenley's number 44, building 44, and it shows him there ripping off, I don't know if it was whales or anchors. The whales, he throws them in the middle of the road. 6 minutes later, it shows an RCMP cruiser stopping and picking him up, putting him off the side. But I had him in clear view on the promenade where he was ripping out the flowers. So they, one of the constables came in, took video footage, and then, but she just took it off the, but I was expecting them to come back to get copies of the tape, but they never did, so.
Yes.
And the town was pretty quick on that.
Yep. So actually on that note, we have Thextons, they donated the flowers back to us too. They didn't charge us for it, so.
Maybe we can send them a note or something, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do that.
Okay, no other questions? Well, protective services, Bruce, I guess you covered that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
That's, there wasn't too much to that, just the, with protective services, just to update where it says, taxi license as of date June 11th. It's now $425. That was the total of, all the taxi licenses for operators and owners.
Yeah.
So, that was really the only change on that.
Okay, correspondence, we got some, couple thank you letters from Southwest Nova Biosphere and Society of Friends of Pharaohs, who do a lot of work for the town in regards to cats, so don't be hesitant to call them if you have an issue with feral cats in your neighborhood. It's one of the reasons we donate to them, because we can call them. Community Health Board signage. Community Health Board, I talked to them a year or so ago. They had got some grant money for some signage, and they've approached the CEL, but they have a template there. I want to know where we could put some signage on. We already have some around. With respect to Bigby's hair, no smoking, but any ideas where these could go? Around the community, we want to do the town and some of the county.
There's one on the arena, there's one on the Fisherman's Memorial Park.
Yep, downtown, Promenade.
There's a couple.
The rec center.
Yep.
The rec center.
Yeah, there is, yeah. Any ideas? Ed, do you have any ideas where these signage could go, or?
It's one of the agreed, it's just,
This basically says, welcome to this smoke/vape-free space.
Yeah.
And it repeats in French, and it says, thank you for shopping, or supporting. Smoke-free places are.
do we have one on the promenade?
Is there one down there?
I don't know. I don't think there is.
Oh, okay, like Promenade, maybe you could go around Promenade.
You focus on our green spaces, they're good places to have them, for sure, or around any of our buildings too, so.
Yeah, public buildings.
Down in the left-hand corner, it says, once equator cut back, you can succeed. Contact 811 or tobaccofreens.ca. So it's
No cost to us, they got a grant for this.
Councilor Tomlin had a good one, he said, fantastic place, the trails up there, it is a wooded area,
Yeah, we pick up cigarette butts.
yeah, so,
Yeah.
they have one on the gate up there, wouldn't hurt anything either, so.
It's kind of ironic, you go for a hike in the woods,
absolutely.
for hiking, you're smoking. Yeah, that's kind of one. Yeah, so maybe, how many was there, Tom? Did they say?
No.
No, I think they got a dozen, and they want to spread it around the region here.
Yeah. We definitely do have a dozen for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We need to stay. Yeah.
Yeah, those places, yeah. They provide the signs, we gotta bolt them up. Digby Health Services Community Navigator, this is something that's been in the back of the mind of a few of us that have been involved in doctor recruitment for a number of years. I think I've spoke to this before, but when it comes to recruitment of healthcare professionals, what happens, in a nutshell, what happens is there's a group of people in the community that we call upon. If we hear healthcare professionals coming to town, they pick up the phone, they'll call me, well, they get Phil Barrett's kind of the lead, or they'll call others in the community and say, we got a doctor coming next week, what can we do, where do we take them? We have dinners, we have suppers, we have receptions, sometimes they're at the hospital, and other places like that, and we prepare a little bit of information, we do tours of the community, and they get a chance to answer questions. But it's always reactive. You know, there's some things that we formally put in place, and we always react to. So this is one thing, a community navigator, there's a few moved through the provinces, one in Yarmouth. Appears to be successful. They had one last year, and they brought 7 doctors. That's just, but the community navigator is only one part of that whole process, so. The Hospital Foundation has looked into this, and there'll be a lot more. What they're doing right now is looking at potential partners, the town, municipality, the foundation, could be the Community Health Board in the province of Nova Scotia, looking at funding options for this. I talked to the MLA today. He's talking with the province. In the past, they provided $25,000 to $35,000 towards a position like this. I met with Oliver Jansen, who's the current chair of the Hospital Foundation. He's in his last few days or weeks in that position. One of the conversations we had, is there a potential for a community navigator that might also, I'm going to talk to Data, we don't think there's this is not a full-time job, but between that and the community data position and other positions, could this turn into a full-time job with funding from 4 or 5 different bodies? So they're investigating that. We haven't had a conversation with Data yet, but they're looking at funding options, and at some point they'll be coming back to us. So the CEO and I, the board and the CEO of the municipality met with members of the foundation just to hear more about it. And at some point they'll be coming here to tell us more about it, and then move ahead with discussions on something. Is it viable? And it's not just focused on healthcare professionals in Yarmouth. It's focused on immigration and attracting other people to the community, other health and other professionals, dentists, lawyers, whatever. So that's it in a nutshell. But this is just to tell us that at some point we're going to hear from some people in regards to this. It could also be somebody that's sitting there and could do grant applications and things like that. So, a go-to person in the community. So it's more of a heads up, look out, they're going to come over the next couple of months.
I guess the only thing I would suggest if you're talking to them is the split, the 3-way split. We usually do it by population or whatever, whether that fits in or not.
Yeah, and hopefully it's going to be more. It'd be a 4 or 5-way split. Yeah. We can add that like if it's based on per capita. No questions on that? Draft flag flying policy. Say that fast. This is the result of the request I put in. Part of it is a request I put in about flying bearer First Nations flags. So that's requested in to them, and they think it's a lovely idea. So Tom has reviewed the policy. Any comments or thoughts on it, Tom? We have an old policy that didn't allow us to do that from the old days. So if we're going to start flying like the First Nations flag and special interest groups, we need to change our policy.
One question on it. What happens for the special flags if we've got multiple groups that are looking to use the flag the flagpole at the same time? So I know a lot of groups have things that are a month long. What happens when we've got that overlap? Do we try to accommodate both, or 1 year it's group A, 1 year it's group B?
Yeah.
Basically, it's on a first come, first served basis. As far as requests are concerned.
You guys can go.
Right?
Okay. I mean, not that I
But the thing is, it's only a 2-week span that we fly the flag.
Okay.
Right? It's only for 2 weeks. And then, so if there's more than one group that has an event in 1 month, then you do both. Okay?
Yeah, for instance, this is Indigenous Month now, and typically I think it's Pride Month, but that's been moved to August or something this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could have a number of requests come in. So if you had
It was specifically for this month, and the fact that I knew that normally there would be 2 within the month of June. That's where the question came from, because this year, due to I think Pride being moved to August, there won't be the overlap, but in future years it might be something that comes up.
Yeah, we're only dealing with one flagpole, but it
Yeah.
could be available,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we redone the flagpoles on Admiral Walk, we added 2 extra flagpoles, because we had the room, moved it back, we had the room. So, basically, in the research that I've done on all of the policies, in other municipalities, this one is basically based on the Region of Queens policy, which basically they were the only one that actually stated that they flew the first First Nations flag actually in their council chamber as well as on the flagpole. So, yeah, so basically the research showed that everyone that done special purpose flags, they had a specific flagpole. Back in, when the original policy was put in, the fear was, and the reason that the policy was so specific was they were, I think the council of the day did not want to have to take down the Canadian flag or the town flag to put something else up. That was the reason for it. And the flags on Admiral's Walk, we only had enough for the provinces and the territories. So there was no extra flag that we could designate as a special pole.
Yep. And I see Yarmouth flying the First Nations flag. They're flying the Mi'kmaq flag. We've had our request is from Bear Rivers to fly their flag. And rightly so. We're on the border of First Nations, a nation, so I think it's appropriate, more appropriate today than it ever has been. So we're hoping to have that all confirmed shortly. But in order to do it, we need to have this policy, if everybody's satisfied with that, a motion to take it to council for approval.
I'll make a motion that we take administrative policy 2021-0, flag flying policy to council.
I don't mind seconding it, but I have one question. So the 2 extra flagpoles that we had there, those flags will be flown down on the end or in the middle?
Yeah. It's not to interrupt the sequence of the provincial and territorial flags. It's the last 2 flagpoles. So basically, what was foreseen in the draft of the policy was that provincial territorial flags, then the next pole would be the First Nations flag, or Bear River First Nations flag, and then the very last pole would be the special purpose flagpole. And in the policy, it also states that when there is no special purpose flag to fly, that the town of Digby flag would fly there. So we're not going to have a vacant pole or a bare pole, right?
Is there a protocol as to what flies are the left or the right of the First Nations flag?
I don't believe so.
No, it's for heights.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, more height.
And what's the protocol for the order of the provincial flags that we have there?
The order is as they join confederation.
I was trying to figure out what it was and I couldn't feel like.
Yeah, it's our protocol. So that's how they did it.
Yeah. It's by as a command. That's why the last flag, territorial flag, is Inuit. Inuit.
Nunavut?
Inuit.
So, what would be the protocol if, say for instance, our sovereign passes away? We would lower our flags to half mast.
Yeah.
What happens to the First Nations flag? And who gives direction whether it flies at half staff or not?
First Nations. It's important to remember, when I reach out to First Nations, it's mayor to chief.
Yes.
And they will really drive the protocol around that flag. That'd be a good discussion to have with them. It's probably similar to the Acadian flag, that flag wouldn't move.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's something to bring up.
Which I mean it's their flag, it's their prerogative.
Exactly.
Don't want to get to that situation or not have the question answered.
Exactly, so,
Yeah.
yeah. But, yeah, so figure out the order of the flags, so you'll know the year each province joined.
How do you decide on the first four?
Huh?
How do you decide on the first four?
Right.
You just ran, technical, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the poll,
flew around Nova Scotia first.
Okay.
Because we are in Nova Scotia.
and that empty flagpole one, there's nothing there, it'd be the town of Digby or the Habs flag, so.
I thought it said bear flag,
We should probably, maybe we should have an amendment to that to make sure we can never fly the half flag. I don't want that as a special request.
That's true.
Ugh.
Okay, so we have a motion here, a second, are all those in favor of that?
Aye.
Any second, any opposed? Draft dog control bylaw. Tom, you made some changes there. Something that's another one that's always been a bit of contention amongst the committee.
Oh, just got a note back on the flag policy, the last page that basically says the municipal unit and similar policies, that was just for council's information, that will not make up part of the policy, that page 9 of 9 will not be part of the policy, so it was just for council's information. Okay, dog bylaw. Basically, this dog bylaw started as a result of changing the dog license fee from an annual to a forever life of the dog type of fee. And so then as I reviewed the policy, we looked at our policy was breed specific when we talked about dangerous and vicious and dangerous dogs. So basically, the research that I did, most municipal units have stepped away from being breed specific. There has been a lot of controversy about bylaws that are breed specific. And you get a dog owner of one of those breeds, and the thing is as calm as a cucumber and just like a pussy cat. You're saying, well, they're saying it's dangerous and fierce, and it's not. And so all dogs, any dog, type, shape, breed, or whatever, can be a dangerous or fierce dog if it attacks something. And so basically, everybody has gone to being very specific in the definition of what makes up a fierce and dangerous dog. So, in a nutshell, that's the major change in the bylaw over other ones, other than the rate structure.
Well, this gives us, continues as I've read through, it gives us still the ability to address a dog attack, so.
Yeah.
And it does, yeah.
And it also expands on, what will excuse a dog's actions, right? If a dog bites a person and they were provoked, then it's not really the dog's fault. So it would be excused from being labeled as dangerous and fierce because it was provoked or whatever, right? So that's all laid in there.
We've had, about 2 attacks this year that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 2 by a particular breed of dog in the town already. It was Since I've been here, I've been talking to the bylaw officer, there's been a number of them over the last few years. Where there was injury or something like that. Any comments on it? The last community I found that had was down South Shore, and they were taking the court over the breed specific. You can Google it and bring it up. They were taking the court over being breed specific.
Yeah.
So what's going on?
So that was Town Park Harbor.
Yeah, was it Clark's Harbor? I couldn't remember which one it was.
Town Park Harbor that was taken to task over the bylaw.
Yeah.
And it was a person that owned one of those breeds, but it was not it was one of those 10-tile dogs and wouldn't hurt a flea. And so you're being prejudiced against breeds.
Yeah.
It's not that action.
So. Any comments or anything? It's saying that. No? That was good. Okay, then we need a motion to take it to council. Someone move
I
it.
make that motion to take it to council.
Sorry, but council Sunday. Any further discussion on it? If none, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Dog park lighting. Will, that was you that brought that up?
Yeah. I guess at this point, well, I guess I should discuss it, talk with the executive. Had some folks approach me about the dog park, not specifically to summertime because daylight lasts for a while, but whether council ever considered the idea of putting either lighting or like a regular street light or solar powered lighting at the park. And I know it was a topic that I think came up either in November or December, but if council's willing, I'm just going to make the request that we check into both permanent lighting structure and renewable lighting of some form to see what cost would be and to see if there would be any grant money available for it. And that would be more specific to the renewable source or whatever lighting. So so that's my ask, that we look into it just to see if we can get pricing on it, to see if it's something that would be viable and help make the place a little more usable after dark, and more specifically outside of the summertime season. So those,
if there's grants, it's all that all.
Yeah.
The renewable part, you drive into places like IKEA, you look at their lamp poles, little solar things or windows on top of there. They're all going that route, so something we could ask Tom and Ed to look into. One of the first, other than the cost, if there's grants out there, is setting some parameters around how late.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff, but that's a little management stuff.
It's a dust type thing, right?
Yeah, Tom, you could ask somebody with it, look at it, and see if the government will give us any money for it.
The only thing that, and I loathe to call it the dog park, because it has so much more potential. And as loath as I am to suggest it on a committee, it seems that we do things piecemeal surrounding that park. There's no overall plan, there's no overall way moving forward to say, well, here's the overall vision, let's divide it into stages and attack it that way. And it will just sort of be what it is until somebody actually develops a plan and actually wants to develop it further.
There was different ideas for the park, but over the last year and a half, it just kind of stalled a lot of it. But no, it needs a 10,000-foot view as to what. Yeah.
So is there a company around, like, I know when we did the Fisherman's Park, we had what was that place called in Bear River? Always Gardening.
Yeah.
She was a designer. She actually went down, saw the property, designed it, and then brought it to council for approval. So I don't know if there's any other companies that would look at taking that space and designing something for.
Oh, there's all kinds of them, so we look into that.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we had a company that had an outside look to see what, I don't know if there's any companies around town that do that. Does the same company that does the streetscape that we did, or?
Within the parameters of
Yeah.
the deed, the terms and conditions that the province stuck on.
It'd be nice to get something designed, you know?
Yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah.
Reach out to a company.
Yeah, look into that, come up with some, there was some designs and some things looked at, but they just kind of stalled. It's
Clean the apples through that type of thing.
Huh?
Just clean the apples through that type of thing, or?
No, I don't know, we could ask her, I could ask her, Katie McLean, they just, and then again, they work on grant money, so
Yeah.
everything there was their grant money they put there.
Probably need a professional company.
Yeah,
So I don't think Always Fair even charges that much at the time.
they still exist,
So.
we find out.
Yeah, you find out.
She retired, so we find out, yeah, and then kind of put a global.
Yeah, and it wasn't guaranteed they got it either, it was just the design that she
Yeah.
did, so.
So it's gonna be for, what would healthy living, activities?
Activities, outdoor, green space, the plans were early on was, a labyrinth for people to enjoy, natural playground, similar to what's in the Nathans Royal. Yeah, there was a whole series of steps, but it just kind of, it stopped.
A walking area.
Yeah, well, yeah. And so, yeah, let's start those steps. And then-
Yeah.
And Ed can dig up what was originally talked about, designed for it. so.
Cause then your lighting could fit in the whole.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful idea. Yeah. I'm sure if a plan like that were to be put forth and come together, they'd probably appreciate that more than just a couple of solar lights to.
Yeah.
Solar lights at night, yeah. Yeah. The renewal part, the reason I threw the renewal part, actually. The renewal part, because sometimes there's such a push for green and renewables and streetlights, we might find some funding for it, yeah.
Inspired Communities may be another group that would help fund that too.
While we're on the topic,
I don't know if they do that.
is there any appetite for council to ask the Department of Renewable, Department of Infrastructure Renewal? Is that what it's called?
DIR?
Yeah,
Yeah, Trent, yeah.
to give us the lookup.
Would love to have that. Yeah.
Or if they could say.
That's actually run by DNR,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Forest, yeah.
I'll ask MLA, look into that. They weren't prepared at the time. Our title working group looked at that, because that was potentially one of the three sites chosen for tidal power. It was here at the wharf, right there at that looking off, and down closer to the ferry. Ended up, number one was here, number two was right there at that looking off. I'll be talking to Warden Wilson this week. I'll mention to him, ask him to look into it. They may like to give it up.
It's always a good, it's hard to ask what elections are.
Coming close. So in the next 2 weeks, you'll hear an election date. Yeah.
Do a summer election?
Yeah. Very potentially could be.
You want to get into the feds.
Yeah, yeah, and there'll probably be a federal election. The hint is in this fall, so. Yeah, I'll ask Warden Wilson about it. But, yeah, there's not an erosion problem right there. The erosion problem is more across the VIC, isn't it?
No, it is.
Right there too? That's the other thing.
They keep moving the fence back. Instead of fixing the problem,
Yeah.
their solution is to move the fence back.
Yeah, if you go down the water and look at the coastline there, a lot of it's gone, so.
Yeah.
We could be picking up something that we don't want to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on. Yeah. I'll ask Gordon.
But at the same time, there may be money for that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
It's
Also,
wrong.
road. Yeah.
Okay.
Now to the try, and that's one of the things with that flood risk infrastructure.
Yeah.
That's why we're,
Go after it.
hoping
Sooner
to
than
get
later.
money for that, so.
Salary scales. We had a conversation last time about salary scales. It suggested that we just look at the different options and just what they would do to us financially. Mine are upside down in my package.
Mine are down.
It turns sideways. There is
Well,
a,
there's a button that goes that way too, so you're all good.
Yeah, oh yeah. You can flip them.
you can also rotate clockwise in the,
Oh, you're a smart guy, I didn't know
It helps. Makes it easy.
So the discussion was around, we were looking at the various percentages, and should we look at the 1.5 and see what it'll do to us in the future? And Tom, you got comments on that?
I guess,
The thing is, I guess two things. Have the discussion around these, and if we reach an agreement, then we would make a motion to move to council, then we would have a special council meeting immediately following this one to get them so they can go into the budget so that we can have a look at the overall budget, so. See what it'll do to us. Tom?
so I guess basically I get three comparisons. One is the 0.3%, which was what was presented at council. That was my recommendation from council. And two others for comparison. The last one, the 1.6%, was the one that was I had originally intended to present to council, and that's with keeping the town of Lunenburg in the salary scale, right? So, and then one roughly, well, not exactly in the middle, but at 1%. So basically, the total increase of the 0.3% is $3,332. The total increase for 1% is $8,186, and the 1.6 is $12,452.
Comments, thoughts?
It's inflation this year.
As
wacky as this year has been.
Yeah,
0.03.
yeah, it wasn't very much. Comments and thoughts? We did, as Tom said, he dropped it, and then we're back in.
Inflation last month was 3.6%, which would be 12 months of 0.3.
Yeah.
But I know we're operating a year behind in terms of looking at inflation. And I'll say that I believe I was the one who requested the number for the 1%, and Tom was kind enough to put in the 1.6% as well, for the fact of looking at it from the staff's perspective. And this past year, I know I look at the government numbers a lot. They come through in terms of my other workplace, and we see them, and there were a lot of crazy ups and downs that affected it. So we came out at a 0.3, but going forward, we're likely to see a higher number. But for the staff and to show that we have appreciation for the work they've put in, that's why I was requesting we look at a 1%, and specifically the actual dollar value numbers on it, which there's only about $4,700 difference between the 0.3% and the 1%, and to show some small meaning for the work that they've put in, and the fact that they've done it in a less than standard year. Well, heck, a pretty crazy in the last century sort of year that we consider being fair to them in terms of offering something for a raise. And I mean, I pushed to say 1.6 because I did discuss before that removing towns from a comparison sort of allows you to, well, get any number out of it. You can remove people on the high end or the low end depending on what direction you're trying to get to. But I'm not going to suggest we look at that as a potential number just for the fact that we are in a tough budget year. And I expect that, extra dollars won't be easy to find, at least in this given year. But for respect for the staff and what they've done, that's why I, was hopeful we'd look at the 1% number for everybody.
Yeah, tough budget year. We're always in a tough budget year. It doesn't, we're a town. Every town's in a tough budget year. I tend to look, I agree with everything you said to a point. I tend to look at, narrow down to us. We're a small unit. We're one of the smallest units in the province besides Clark Harbor and Showers. And also looking at, compare our government salaries to the average private salary. Yeah. So try to balance it. I agree that the staff have done a wonderful job. So I would be less inclined to the 1.6%. I would look at the other two more than I would the 1.6%. But
Yeah.
And then when we put Lunenburg back in there, Lunenburg is, I don't know, I've never looked at Stats Canada's and their average salary in Lunenburg. I tend to think of Lunenburg as being a little more prosperous, what am I trying to say? Prosperous than Digby overall, but then again, maybe not, you know, with, you look
Not
at
this year there.
now with tourism, when we look at our fishing activity, we're in the top five ports in the province of Nova Scotia, so.
That's what I always thought would be, I mean, we're living in a world where a $50 minimum wage is not that far away on the horizon.
No, there's-
And everybody's salary is being eaten away by that minimum wage going up. Because, you know, everybody in a normal job doesn't get that kind of an increase, right? Let's call a spade a spade. So, yeah, I mean, do they deserve more money? Sure, they deserve more money. Can we afford to pay more money?
I agree with what you're saying too, is, you know, the minimum wage is just gonna be a killer for everybody.
Yes.
It's gonna, I don't know, close a lot of businesses in my mind. I mean, you have people that work for you for, you know, 10 or 12 years, and people who work there for 1 year are getting almost the same as they put in 10
Right.
years, and you can't afford to go up or down, so that I'm soon retiring, because it gets to a point where nobody wants to be managers anymore. Why would you bother? We can just walk in and work on a cash house for 6 hours and make $15 an hour and say, see you later. You know?
But the $15 is coming.
Oh, it is.
It's in the psyche of everybody. Government, we sat in a meeting in this room just a week or two ago, talking about hiring a part-time worker, and the first thing came up and said, are we paying them $15 an hour?
Yeah.
So it's in our mindset.
But how do you do the same percentage now as, you know, a $10 minimum wage or whatever compared to a, you know, a $20 secretary, that the percentage is so totally different. You can't afford to pay your manager that much money. You just can't do it, right?
But the economy will adjust.
Well,
There's only so much time.
There's only so much thought, that's right.
A lot of the businesses are reducing their hours. Later, open an hour later and close an hour earlier to offset the increases that happen.
Oh, they would, it'd be worse. The employee would be worse off than up there.
Yeah, although if someone's making $12.45 or $13 an hour, and then over the next 2 or 3 years it hits 15 and that shuts the business down, then there's probably a lot more going on than just the salaries.
There's a lot going on.
I think it is, like, I can't do it. It's quite a chunk of change when you start doing it.
But if you get to that point where you're at $12, $13 an hour, and depends on what stage of life you're in, a week or two more off a year is worth way more money than that.
True.
And then in our situation, where we're talking about, do we have enough staff? now we have 3 balls in the air, right, trying to justify that.
So what's your thoughts on the scales? The staff wants to know which one they should roll with, just to give us a thought on where it's gonna fit within the budget.
That would be the 0.03. That's what we have right now.
I'm gonna ask for the one, and suggest that's what we go for the staff. It's a $4,750 actual dollar difference.
Divided amongst,
Yearly.
yearly divided amongst, how many staff, Tom? How many staff is that? I had that wrong. Anyway, it's a lot of staff, so it's not a lot of money to the individual. No.
Those legislative did they what we're doing.
Well, yeah.
I think we start with one and see where we go.
That never goes, yeah. This is to give some guidance to staff, and then when we get into the budget, then we look at this sort of other thing, so. I've heard from three, this sounds a little bit like an auction going on here.
One sounds good to me, we can always adjust it.
Yeah.
You have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
If by chance we have a better year than we think, maybe we can have it.
I'm not with that optimistic, but.
Every year, I mean, tough, you know, budgets are tough years.
That's what all you guys prepped me for was, never expect the budget to get bigger with more money to spend on projects you'd like to see.
Now, once the province takes over $800,000 for the roads, that cost and all that, then we'll be talking about that. That won't happen.
Basically, you know, if this was not a survey year, then we wouldn't have been faced with whatever the cost of living was. Unless council said we're not giving any cost of living.
Yeah. It's a balance, what we can afford, what we need to do to keep our staff happy, and it's a lot cheaper to retain staff than it is to retrain staff.
Yeah.
It'll show you that, time and time again, if you're gonna spend months retraining.
Well, I'll say for the first time in 5 positions we've posted, we actually finally had an increase in our number of applicants for postings down at the bank.
Right.
Where we had seen drops on 4 straight, but it seems like a few more people are now interested in applying for roles, but it's been a tough go to get interest.
So, I guess the thing is what you're being asked of council is to set salary scale.
Yeah.
Right? Because if council isn't prepared to set the salary scale, then you say we're not prepared to move the salary scale, and we're back to the 0.3 automatically, because that's what the cost of living is.
Yes.
So I guess that's basically what council has to decide. Either you're gonna reset the scoreboard, or you're gonna leave it as it is and let it move forward for another 3 years.
3 years. And 0.3 is, it
Really?
wasn't like kind of an insult.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of an insult.
Although I have been in a contract where we've gotten less than that.
Yeah, you needed a stronger union.
Yes.
Yeah. So, are we prepared to reset this? I'm gonna call for a motion, but, so that we can move this process. Any other thoughts, comments, or, I'm hearing 1%, set that scale at 1%. If we do that, then we'll be having a special council meeting for 5 minutes after this. And then staff can take that and run with it, and then be coming back to us with a budget, so.
I'll make that motion that we go with the 1% salary scale, have a special meeting after the meeting.
I'll second
Any further conversation? Don't be shy to talk about salaries, no one ever likes to talk about salaries. No. It's always uncomfortable. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Alright.
And all those opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Yep. Motion carried. Okay.
So that,
Yep.
that was the CIOs.
Yep.
It's all set.
We're going back to the town clerk.
Fine with me.
When you retire in 10 years.
Fine with me.
Yeah, we wouldn't be allowed to do that now. The province would walk in and say, not doing that. Artwork, I spoke to Mr. Jensen about a month ago. I have another conversation, they had down, yeah. Have you had anything since then?
I actually was down to the manufacturers
Yeah.
the other day, and they had it all laid out on the floor.
Yeah.
Somebody's coming. I actually saw it.
Yeah.
That's my-
I'll invite him to come to council, to bring us up to speed on this artwork piece.
Well, it's,
Been 2 years. Yeah.
it's
Artist,
nice at least it's cut out and on the.
yeah, he did,
On the floor,
yeah, he did say he had all.
It'd be nice to see them cut out and put it on the wall.
well, hook it to the floor, we'll cut the floor and hang it on the wall. So I'll invite,
Take pictures of it, at least we can see it.
I'll invite him to come here and give us an update. This has been a
Long process.
long process. Yes.
Does anybody know for sure that, the owner of the building's gonna allow us to put it on the wall? The last conversation that I had, it was difficult.
Yeah, I had a conversation with him. He had some questions, but he felt comfortable in knowing what it is, but we have to have that too, so.
Well, when he was here at council a year ago or more, I mean, it was, yeah, he was gung ho to have something put back to replace what was there.
Yeah.
I haven't had a conversation with him since, but,
I have over the last few months.
I don't think it's a good place to have a conversation with him, but,
We'll have that conversation.
We have a backup plan in case it doesn't work.
Done, just put posts up, put it on the post.
Oh, yeah, we could do that.
And just fix it to the building.
Okay.
The option's there, but the building was easy.
Okay, buildings, the original, work that was done, 1990, the original artwork for that, there was an agreement between the building owners in the town, put that there. We have renewed the agreement with the building owner on the south side, to allow those ones to remain. It was only for a 20-year period and then it lapsed, so.
Okay.
So we haven't entered into a new agreement with the owner to the north.
Between the two of us, we usually see him, so we'll, we'll have a conversation. I see him every day. We stand by my office, so we'll have that conversation. Down, we come talk to Tom. On Cycling Properties, Pete, you could have brought him up, or given to Tom, but you could have brought him up.
Well, I did send a picture of the old Irving Ridge with the wooden box and the garbage, but I did not take a picture of the inside of the building. And the ceiling's coming down. It looks like it's raining. The water's in there, and the building is getting ready to be. And it's going to be an eyesore if it's not already. I know it's not. With the provincial or with the oil that we had possibly there, I know they drill it, but I'd like to see the building. I personally like to see the building come down and like they did in Wolfville and turn it into green space. But it is an eyesore.
Yeah, it's getting there. The inside of the building, it is leaking.
It is.
Ceiling's coming down, so we could work our way.
And I'm not sure, Tom, if you've had conversation lately with them or not, but
It's quite difficult to get a hold of them. I know that Bruce has reached out, especially with the garbage box, and he's not getting any response. So I guess now that we're talking about it, one of the things that we discovered is trying to do something with that corner, and straighten it, crosswalk, and also to actually put an actual sidewalk that continues down around that corner, or down to that corner, right? And restricting the access actually on, but apparently some of our sidewalk already is on their property. So, and I mean, it's a natural thing because of the natural flow of the traffic. So, you know, I think that maybe it might be worth looking into. Maybe the town might want to see if they want to. It'd be nice if they tore the building down, as Councilor Turnbull is saying, gift the land to the town so that we can turn it into a park or a parking lot or whatever the case may be, right? Because basically with all of that, even though they've had tests done, drilled wells there, test wells and stuff, and been monitoring it, still hadn't been signed off by the environment yet as to that it's a clean site or whatever. So as long as you don't excavate,
Yeah.
and there's oil under it, as long as you don't excavate it and uncover it, it can stay there forever according to the rules, right?
Yeah, you'll see them there every year.
Yes.
And they have boreholes there where they dig them up and they put their electronic gear down testing. Irving's not known for giving up property like that either, so.
Well, they did
Maybe
Wolfville, I believe, it was in Wolfville that they did.
Yeah. They had the old service station there.
Yeah,
That they took down.
Yeah.
Well, let's work our way through that. That's
Something that, you know, I mean, I'm not saying nothing.
well, let's have a
Investigate.
Yeah, let's investigate it. Let's send a letter to every Irving department there is, because you can't get through them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was at our recess one night with my employer. They had a meeting,
Basically, as far as the box is concerned, you know, basically, I was to the point of instructing Bruce to go and have it removed, and we send the bill to Irving, and that'll be the fly on there.
Yep. Tell me what about it.
not for at least 90 days.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, 11:30, but you won't hear from them for 90. But yeah, let's start digging through that. I drive by there too. It's kind of an entry point to the town. You make that turn, and you look down, and it's just starting to peek in the windows and starting.
Yeah, it is, yeah. And the last one, not really, sorry, it's not, it's the fence between Mount and King. Go down over the hill, the fence is rotting on the top, and it definitely needs a paint job.
Mount?
Is it Mount? Yeah.
Oh,
Coming out from the school, you mean?
the enclosed road.
Yeah.
Yeah, that fence needs to be either painted and replaced, or, the sign up there is street closed, and it's all bent up, and,
Something to get dead,
yeah, so,
So that's Mount Street, the Mount Street did in.
Yeah.
Off of King Street.
King and Mount, yeah.
Really kids are lighting fires.
It's not a big fence, but it's,
Whose responsibility is it to keep the grass going down around Bell Street and school? Is it our tenant's responsibility?
Me, probably,
Because it's looking pretty shabby too.
Nothing really happens there in Irving.
No.
Okay, check for it.
I'd have to check. I know that they're responsible for the snow removal and stuff like that. I don't know, but yeah, that's maintenance as far as, like I've done it in the past, so I'd have to check on that.
Okay.
Just on the top of that, Irving building's really bad. And Apple's turned their bus station into a
Comfort
shelter.
Center. Yeah, Comfort Center.
Yeah.
That building was much better shape.
Yeah, probably
Peak in this
was.
one, yeah.
This one's pretty bad.
Yeah, the ceiling's down, water's coming in. Structurally, it's probably, it's a metal building, the roof.
Yeah. It's kind of neat what they did there.
Yeah, they made a nice looking
The
building.
comfort station. Yeah, it's neat.
They never made a flat roof yet, didn't they?
No,
That's right.
That's the problem. Yeah, you would take that building and put a new roof on it.
Yeah, seal it.
And seal it. As long as the foundation is good and the walls are good, you put a roof on it and make something out of that building. As it sits.
Well, let's start approaching Irving.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a nightmare to get through to the right person. Resolution. That we need to, in order for Tom to move ahead with looking for grant applications, as part of the processes that the town pass a resolution. Recognizing that we have an issue with Racket Road, so we would need the motion to take this to council, and that would go to the special council meeting tonight, so that Tom can proceed.
I make a motion, we take the
resolution to, council, special meeting.
Second? Second. The reason they ask for these is so that they say, well, council's serious about this. Council's serious, they want action taken.
Yeah. Not only that, they also want to know if council if we don't have council support and council's not committed to this project, then they'll say, well, if we award them the money, and then the council says, well, we haven't got our share, right? So basically, this basically says that council will come up with our share. It's a capital project anyway, so, and, something that we pay for over a 10-year period, whether we borrow it from ourselves or whether we borrow it from Municipal Finance Corporation.
So if this means, any changes in the bridge itself, the TIR become a part of it here?
The design is not all going to alter the bridge. The bridge is, the height of the bridge is just the right height. It's because when you come off the bridge, you got that dip. And then you back up the road, so you start going back up and you go by and stand in the lane, it starts going back up. So it's that little dip there, and that's where we have a 12-inch water main that runs down through there, and plus our lift station. And so if a storm comes to pick that up, number one, the town will be without some water for a while, and without any wastewater for a while.
Yeah, we have infrastructure that crosses it. Yeah. It'll be like John Nichols in the talk about history, but during the Groundhog Day storm, the water went right over that entire area. Fortunately, Victoria Street was built 4 or 5 years before that, up over the hill, so we had to go that way to come to town, because the water was over top of that bridge. Were any of you guys born in this?
Yeah, I was digging through.
Oh, just kidding. Okay, I guess I'm the only one who remembers it.
What year was it?
Huh? 1976.
No, not even close.
36. I was just driving around that storm. So.
I remember the kids going down the deck had to be boated across.
Seawall Hill, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Fire department had a trailer fire on the Lighthouse Road, and we're having trouble getting the fire truck. There, they had to go the other way.
Yeah. And people talk about the bad storms today. Well, there's been nothing like that one since, so.
I was going through graveyards in Annapolis, and we were seeing bones and knives and bones and everything else in that graveyard. It was cool.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of the high tides, it's still the body, the old Acadian graveyard washout, eh?
Yeah, Annapolis has some challenges with coastal erosion. It's a serious issue for Annapolis. So all in favor of that resolution? Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Good. That was the last thing. Oh, umbrellas.
Yeah. Well, today, of course, we had our functioning heat, and Mary mentioned to me that, there should be something here to protect us from the sun, because it's a very hot spot. You can't even come here and eat lunch because it's a very hot spot. So they get council. So
they eat lunch there a lot every day.
Yeah.
But I agree, it's a hot spot.
It's a hot spot.
But one thing with umbrellas, every time it blows, you gotta take them down, and every night, Friday night, we have to put them back. That's the problem. Yeah.
It's a hard spot.
It's a hard spot. Unless you have a permanent gazebo.
Yeah. Let's just don't start.
Well, that's plans for that company. But yeah, it is a hot spot, but now I could just see what's gonna happen on umbrellas.
Maybe we should bet this bill perk off over the
Whole
whole thing.
thing.
And the thing is, then the funny thing is the Christmas tree, right?
Yeah.
Unless you have a section of it, and you stick the Christmas
Oh,
tree.
Yeah.
It would make it easier to decorate, you can have there though.
You stand on the pergola and do the top part.
Instead of using the backhoe.
Yeah.
I agree with it, but I just know that.
Well,
they're
who's
not
gonna
gonna
know who's gonna take them down? A windy day, you gotta roll them down. It's hard to.
even when you roll them down.
Yeah, it's hard
Well,
to do.
people know that it's hot down there, they get down there for the view.
Yeah.
And, to eat.
We put those new picnic tables, indestructible picnic tables, and one was broke. But just a couple weeks after we put it down there,
Yeah, well, that was
because,
Kids turned around.
well, that's on me, it's vandalism.
Yeah, vandalism, kids use from the skateboard off. Right?
Anyway, thank you.
Okay, calendar discussions. We'll continue. Okay, that's the last thing on the agenda. So we got a motion to adjourn and then a motion to go into a special council meeting. Motion to adjourn this meeting? Second? Second.